Today at Manchester Theatres, I am so pleased to be joined by Manchester's very own singer, songwriter, and producer, MICA Millar, who is celebrating the new release of her second album, A Little Bit of Me. And she's doing so with a series of concerts, tours, and festivals across the UK and Europe, and will be performing in Manchester at New Century Hall on the 26th of September. Now, Mika's first album, Heaven Knows, was an absolute cracking success with critical acclaim. She won awards for it, and it basically knocked everybody's socks off. So we are thrilled to be here at the start of the launch of the second one. So Mika, thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, let's delve straight into A Little Bit of Me, because it's got your signature kind of mix of all the different styles of music, from, you know, blues and gospel and 60s. Yeah, it's all wrapped up in this gorgeous Mika bow that just makes it so authentically you. So congratulations, first of all. And
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the album and how it all came together.
Oh, well, it's been a long journey. I started writing it in a few years ago, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago, and then had the amazing opportunity of going and recording it at Miraval Studios in the south of France, which was just unbelievable. It was one of those pinch me kind of experiences, you know, where you think, wow, where am I? Beautiful studio, amazing musicians, just an amazing time that I was had there. And then, yeah, been in sort of post-production, mixing and mastering it and getting it all ready, and finally finished it towards the end of last year, and then started releasing it this year, and it's out now finally. So yeah, very excited for it to finally be here. And I'm super excited about my show at New Century Hall as well. I always love coming back to do, I've been obviously touring all over Europe and kind of going, and I love touring internationally, but there's nothing quite like a hometown show. It's always dead warm and lovely. So yeah, super looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, of course, because you are, as we said, you are from Greater Manchester. So where is home for you in Manchester? And yeah, excited about the home crowd as well, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Withington and I went to school in Didsbury, and now I live in Levenshulme.
So definitely Manchester through and through.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a great chance as well when you're playing at home. You know, you've got your fans of the music, but then everybody who's supported you, your friends, your family, they can all, you know, it's accessible. They can all come and watch, can't they?
Yeah, and I love that too. My dad used to come to all my shows because it mostly used to be in Manchester, and obviously I've been touring now and he's not been out to any because they're all over the world. And yeah, so it'll be lovely to have my dad, my sister and her husband usually come to watch, and just like mates, and also people, obviously, because I started my career in Manchester, you know, there's a lot of people who've, like, you know, been coming to my shows from the very beginning, so you always got like all those familiar faces, and then new people as well in the audience. So it's a lovely thing.
And the album, so it's just stunning. So everybody is going to have favorites. When I listened to it, I couldn't pick. So I was like, I'm going to tell her what my favorites. Yeah. I couldn't pick. So I've got three. So my first one was It's You. So as soon as that started and there was like that percussive, like my shoulders were going, and I was like, yes. And then there's the Broadway with, I love this kind of 60s vibe to that one. And then Oh Freedom, which is completely different again, with like the gospel kind of vibe. And that's what I loved. Like each song has got its own story to tell. So do you have any favorites, or is that a really horrible question to ask?
Well, you know, it's not a horrible question to ask, but I think it depends on the day. And what I love, and that happened with my first album, is everybody's always got a different favorite. You know, I think my main objective when I'm making a record is like I remember when I grew up that you would listen to albums and you could listen, you know, and you listen to like a Lauryn Hill album, for example, her album in the 90s. It was like every song had its own story and there wasn't fillers, you know. It was like you'd get like 70, I mean, it's not 17 songs, but I remember on a CD you used to get like 17 songs and all of them would be great. And I always try and want to maintain that, where it's like, you know, there's nothing on there that I don't say I feel really great about this. And the songs you've picked out, funnily enough, you know, It's You was one of those songs that was just such a fun experience to make. Like I was kind of, when I was thinking about writing this record, been touring Heaven Knows for a while, as I said, and you know, those songs are like super emotive. You know, they're all kind of mid-tempo-y, but they're also like, you know, I'm not saying they're not sad songs, because I think they're hopeful songs, you know what I mean? But I was just feeling like, you know what, I really want to maybe add to this, to the dynamic of what my live show is. Something that has a bit more pace to it, and something that makes me feel really good to perform it. Like, I've sometimes sung things like Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin, and I just love that song. I love the way it makes me feel. And when I listen to like 60s girl groups, you know, like the Supremes or Natalie Cole and people like that, this will be, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, it just gives you a feeling, doesn't it? And when I was writing It's You, I was like, I've got that feeling about this, you know. So I'm glad that really comes over and translates, because it, you know, that's where it came from, that sort of place. So, and the Broadway too, you know, that's a very nostalgic song. And I think Oh Freedom's just like that kind of punchy, rootsy kind of thing. It's more up tempo than other stuff. It's more of a wall of sound as well in terms of the production. So much going on, percussion, organ, you know, everything, vocals, choirs, like, but all of those songs were super fun to make. And that's what I was really, you know, I was really looking for, I guess, from the process of making this record. It's just like enjoying it and finding like joy in the creative process, which I really did.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I had joy listening to it as well. So it was just, I was like, yeah. And I think nostalgic is a great word, because when I was listening, like, especially like the Broadway, it was like, I know this music, and not because it sounded like anything else, because it didn't, but just because it felt like it was. It sounds silly, but it felt like it was a part of my story somehow, and that I'd grown up with it. It was, So I think that's a brilliant word.
That's really cool. And I guess, you know, the thing for me is like, obviously, you know, you both subconsciously and somewhat consciously like bringing your inspirations in, like things you love and want to hear more of, I guess. But I think one of the things that makes it feel like that to the listener is that I'm sort of always approaching the production of things in a way that makes them not sound, you know, like some things you listen to and it sort of sounds like it's been made now, but it's been made to sound like it's from yesteryear. I sort of try and avoid that. That's not really my style, because I want it to be modern and I want it to feel fresh and current, but I want it to bring in like all those ideas that are in history, that are like things that I love in black music, essentially, I guess, you know.
Well, definitely box ticked with that one. So speaking of inspirations and influences then, I mean, Manchester, it has got a massive love affair with music. Of course, we know that. But even with, you know, soul and blues and gospel, and, you know, whether it's the Northern Soul movement or the blues and gospel radio station set up in the 60s, artists ranging from Elkie Brooks, Simply Red, your dad with Sweet Sensation, you know, there's so many influences there. So what were your kind of influences growing up that have inspired you to create the sound that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I just grew up, I guess, in a family that loved music and loved good music and was quite meticulous about what music they listened to. So I think, you know, I came from good, what's the word?
Good stock.
Good stock, thank you. Yeah, in that regard. And I fell in love with Stevie Wonder. I had a greatest hits album, a vinyl record when I was really young. Fell in love with Stevie Wonder and like Jackson 5 when I was a kid. You know, that's what I kind of grew up with. And then when I was and we listened to a lot of the Beatles as well. My dad was a huge Beatles fan, had every single Beatles album there was, and Beach Boys, and, you know, we also had things in the house like Tracy Chapman and Joni Mitchell, you know, great songwriters, I guess. So I grew up with really good music, I guess. And then in the 90s, I grew up with this wave of amazing US R&B that came to the UK. You know, I remember falling in love with Mary Mary, like listening to Shackles or like Brandy. The Boy Is Mine was like one of my favorite songs when I was a teenager. You know, there's all sorts of things like from the R&B space in the 90s, Lauryn Hill, D'Angelo, all of those things kind of started to come out a bit later. So I guess at some point, I guess I realized that all of what music I loved had its roots in gospel music. And then as I got older, and particularly when we got Spotify and you could then go and listen to anyone in the world. You know, that's really started to help me expand my education, I guess, and look like, you know, kind of trace everything back, really got into like Motown and like Northern Soul and listening to, you know, jazz and gospel music. And yeah, so all of those things have definitely played a part in like what inspires me, you know, and even touring as well, you know, going on the road and playing all these different festivals. You know, I was saying to someone the other day, like I really always had a fear about like improvisation, you know, or like just kind of making things up on stage. I'm a bit of a person who likes to prepare. I don't, you know, I'm a perfectionist. And I think touring and playing at all these amazing iconic jazz clubs and jazz festivals and seeing these players and improvisation, I've really started to sort of, I guess, embrace that in the live shows as well. And like, you know, every show's different. So I love that now too.
Yeah. I do. I love that. I love that. And I think it's a great way that, you know, you can show that people just, no matter what it is that we're talking about, you never stop learning. You can continuously improve and educate and, you know, see what else is out there.
Absolutely. I think if you don't feel like that your best work is yet to come, then, you know, you're not going in the right direction, I don't think. You know.
Well, speaking of best work, so your album, when you're writing songs, I know this is different and it could be different for each song for you. What is your starting point? Is it lyrics? Is it an emotion or a genre or like a musical motif that you get in your head? Where do you start?
I mean, sometimes I hear ideas in my head. A lot of times if I hear ideas in my head when I'm like going to sleep or waking up in the morning, I try and record them into a voice note. When you listen back, you're like, I'm not really sure what that is. You know, I definitely, depends when I'm working and I'm in a process where I'm kind of like, you know, right now I'm planning a tour and I'm not writing at the moment, but when I get really stuck into writing, I just hear music constantly in my mind. So that happens, melodies come or a lyric comes, and it could be any of the above. I guess, obviously, to make a song happen, you have to sit down and go, right, I'm going to write a song now. And I usually start that process with all of it together as one, you know, lyrics. Maybe that there's a line for a lyric that I've thought of. It could be like something that I've written down where I've been like, oh, that's kind of an interesting sentiment or whatever. But a lot of the time it's melody first, and then I'll use like an automatic writing approach where I maybe like make a kind of a loop of an instrumentation and press record and then sort of sing melodies. And when you're sort of scatting or ad-libbing a melody, you tend to find like words or phrases will appear. And I love the process of like listening back and being like, what is it that I'm saying there? And if I find that I'm saying something, I sort of think about, I like this about art, you know, like you can look at something and then derive meaning from it after the fact sort of thing. So I often then think, well, what could I potentially mean by that? And I might go through that process of just singing a melody and finding words a few times before I then start to maybe find a theme or a link between things. And it's very much like a puzzle jigsaw piece building kind of approach. And, you know, it might not be, it's not usually start, then middle and end, or chorus or whatever. It might just be there's a section there, and then you've got to join them together, or, you know, but it comes in all different ways. Sometimes I sit down on the piano and write a song, and I write it from start to finish, verse, or I write a chorus first and then go back to the verse. And, you know, it's different for different songs, but a lot with this album, I did a lot of automatic writing with this album.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating listening to it all. And what you've also done as well is performed with, I mean, not one, but two of Manchester's biggest orchestras, the BBC Phil and Manchester Cameretta. Yeah. So would you love then to take, you know, your albums and do that big kind of orchestral tour? Would that be the dream?
I mean, what sort of question is that? Yeah, of course, absolutely. You know, doing a performance with an orchestra, for me, I think what would be fundamental if I was going to do that would be also to have a gospel choir. A full choir, you know, because the songs are so heavily sort of vocal driven, and there's so much going on in the vocal background vocals. You know, they're almost like fundamental to the song. They're a crucial part of it. But yeah, you know, I've had the opportunity to perform with some amazing orchestras, and there's something really I can't indescribable about having, you know, because when you're performing with an orchestra, they're all behind you, and you can't see them. You can just feel this sensation and hear the sensation of this vast orchestra. I think the biggest orchestra that I've performed with was maybe 45 piece or 60 piece or something like that. But just, you know, there's just such beauty in an orchestra, and particularly if you work with great arrangers who do, like, I've done a couple of things with Guy Barker, who's arranged for the BBC Concert Orchestra, and he just does really beautiful orchestral arrangements. He did a couple of my songs for a Jazz Voice for London Jazz Festival a few years ago, and it was just, it's really special when it's your songs. It's that's the thing, you know what I mean? It's like, you hear them in a different way, and you know, it's great.
Because it's someone else's interpretation of your stuff as well, isn't it? So it's like the way that they've arranged it and they've heard it and everything. So I love it. And on top of all of this, so you sing, you write, you perform, you've got your own record label, you produce, you know, you've got Golden Hour Music, you self-manage, you've got, I mean, talk about working your backside off to make your dreams a reality. So for people out there who are kind of just sat out saying, I want to do this, but they're waiting for someone to come and make it happen. I mean, talk us through, because you are just like, if people could bottle you and sell your energy, then so talk us through how you've done it, and how you kind of, where your starting point was to how you've got where you've got.
Gosh, that's a great question, and it's been a very long journey. So let me try and make it succinct. I think, you know, people often ask me, like, what do you think Manchester has given you in terms of your upbringing? And to start with that, I think part of what Manchester is all about is that, like, pull up your bootstraps and get on with it. You know, that's an attitude that we have, which I love about Mancunians. And I think, like, you know, I've always really tapped into that. You know, from, I guess, the very beginning, I sort of realised through, I guess, various meetings, conversations and rejections and whatever else, that, like, nobody was going to kind of take my hand and, like, pull me along and say, like, or give you a record deal. We're not in that era anymore. Things are very different from how they were. And I very quickly realised, you know, if you want to make this work, you have to kind of make it happen yourself. I guess I was very lucky in that I got a very weird brain, which most people don't expect me to have, which is that, like, I studied business. You know, I love business. I'm really into that. I had a marketing company at one point in time, which I don't have anymore because obviously I'm doing this full time. But I sort of really understood marketing, and part of that job was working with music industry and live events. And so I promoted, you know, I'd worked on shows where we were promoting shows that were like 2,000, 5,000 capacity shows, and run the marketing campaigns for those kind of shows. So when I was thinking about launching my own stuff, it was like, no one's going to book me for a live show, you know, because I've not got a proven audience. So I need to book my own. And that is really where I started. I released some music. I released a single. I played at the Whiskey Jar. I booked, like, a show for International Women's Day, and I booked some of my other mates who are female to perform as well. And I just built it from there. I did one show after the other, and every time I did another show, I went, okay, double the capacity this time. We went Whiskey Jar, Deaf Institute, Band on the Wall, you know, really Manchester. In fact, I think I even started at the Castle in a 50 capacity venue, truth be told.
Wow.
And then after Band on the Wall, I said, when Heaven Knows the album was going to come out and we shot the music video, they very nicely let me use Albert Hall, you know, to do the music video. I asked nicely and said, please, can you help me? And when we shot the music video in there, I thought, we have to do the launch show here. But it's so big, and it's such a big ambition for me to do this. And nobody would promote it. I couldn't get a promoter on board to do it. The venue wouldn't do it themselves. But they said, if you want to book the venue, you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I think I made quite a storm by the fact that I was just sort of relentless about it. I was like, cool, I'll book Albert Hall. I was quite risk-taking about it all.
Yes.
And, you know, I put money behind it, you know, what I had basically. And every time I made some money back, I reinvested it. And I just kept on, you know, running it like a business, I guess. And like, you know, gradually building relationships with people in the industry, gradually getting, you know, once you sell a show out at 900 cap on your own, then a lot of promoters are going to want to work with you. You know what I mean? So then it wasn't difficult to get a live agent and get a promoter on board. And So, you know, the live side kind of built from that. And I guess I got loads of support from Jazz FM really early doors. You know, they like fell in love with that record and they just ran with it and championed it. So that really helped. And then, yeah, you know, it's just been a case of like one foot in front of the other and just building it and growing it. And there's a huge amount, there is a huge amount of work that goes on behind the scenes in the background that nobody else sees. That people think it's really like, what's the word? A glamorous lifestyle. Yeah. You're just off on tour and doing photo shoots and all sorts of stuff. But, you know, a large proportion of my time is spent staring at a computer and doing spreadsheets and having meetings and like all of that sort of stuff. But I love it as well. You know, I'd like to spend more time on music, and that's my next goal and ambition, is to be able to kind of, you know, make sure everyone on the team is good and I can just step back a bit more and just focus on making a bit more music and all of that. But, you know, that if that answers the question, that
it does, yes,
is how I did it. And yes, you know,
but it's unbelievable. It's inspirational, and it's like you say, no one's going to back you more than you. And you know, you've gone out there and you've gone, look, this is who I am, this is what I do, and you're going to like it. And people did. I mean, Jazz FM, you said they were supportive. Soul album of the year 2022. They were very supportive. So it's
all
been unbelievable.
Everybody helped, you know, and we just got we got 5 official chart positions with this album for like all the independent charts, the record sales charts and all that. And we did that totally independently. So I was not expecting that to happen, to be honest. I was like, we can aim for it, but we, you know, reach for the moon and you might hit the stars. And then when Friday came of the release week, I was like, we're in the charts. I can't believe it. So
yeah. Oh, well, it's thoroughly deserved. Before we go, we're nearly done, but because you've worked with some incredible artists, you know, you get like Jerry Barnes and all these different people that you've had. I know he's on the first one, but you get like loads of different people. So if you could work with any sort of living legend or legend that has gone before us, who would it be?
Oh, Stevie Wonder. Because it's from, you know, that's the beginning of all of this for me. And I got to support him at British Summertime in Hyde Park last year. And that was like, you know, when you're just like, this has been a bucket list moment since I was 8 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happened. I didn't get to meet him, which I was very, very devastated about. But, you know, just to say that was achieved as like, you know, something that you just think so unrealistic. And I opened for like Gladys Knight as well on her tour. And I remember like when I was younger, I was doing like the pubs around Manchester, you know, like all these tiny pubs where no one was listening to what you're singing about. I remember singing Midnight Train to Georgia.
If you ever need a pit, I'm there.
Right. And, you know, you think back and then you think about all these characters who you've ended up like coming into contact with and all that. It's just amazing. But Stevie Wonder, hands down, has got to be you know, my choice for a collaborator. Absolutely.
Yeah. Good choice. So finally then, before we go, with our Manchester Theatres Manchester Musicians section, we do a quick fire to all our Manchester based artists called How Do You Do? And it's 6 very quick fire sort of Manchester themed questions. Okay.
All right.
So first of all, football, red, blue, or neither?
Blue.
Oh, we've fallen out.
Well, only because my nephews were like scouted to play for City.
Oh, wow.
So, you know,
fair enough.
I've got to back them. But, you know, I go between both. Quick fire.
Blue, okay. Vimto, yes, no, and if yes, how to take it?
What was the question? Vimto. Hot Vimto.
Hot Vimto, yeah. Can't beat a hot Vimto. If you're going to a chippy, and you get chips and you're getting it in bread or like the round version, is it a chip butty, chip balm, chip muffin? What do you call it? Chip balm. Favourite Manchester place or building?
Favourite Manchester place or build? That's hard.
It is. I don't know what I'd say, to be honest.
The inside of Albert Hall's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
That is a gorgeous building to be in. So let's say that as a simple answer.
And it's got a memory for you as well.
A memory, yeah.
Yeah. Favorite, or if not favorite, because that's quite hard, one of your favorite Manchester artists or songs?
Oh.
And you can say yourself.
Children of Zeus, I would say.
Good call.
Oh God, you put me on the spot with songs now. There's so many of their songs, but Children of Zeus.
Just any. Yeah. And last one, who would you call, or who would you sort of reign as Manchester royalty?
Manchester royalty, Lisa Stansfield.
Oh, nice. Yes. That is it. Thank you so much, Mika. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. And people can go and download the album, buy it, do whatever you need to do, but listen to it. And you can buy tickets to go and watch the concert at New Century Hall on the 26th of September. The album is A Little Bit of Me. It is fabulous. Mika, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for the lovely questions.
Oh, you're very welcome. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
I think it's high time for a break. It's all too little too late. And I do my best to refrain. When you ask me to stay, I just can't walk away. Oh, baby, spin me round, I'll find. Oh, baby, spin me round, I'll find. With caution I do proceed, 'cause you're a rare kind of breed. I know you're not what I need. I swear I'm gonna leave, but you gotta hold on for me. Oh, baby, spin me round, I'll find. Oh, baby, spin me round, I'll find. And every time I plead, you're standing in front of me. No other one that I can see. Oh, just for me. Better times for making love. Oh, I must concede, I'm not going nowhere. Oh, baby, spin me round. Oh, I find a little more time. Oh, you spin me round. Oh, I find a little more time. Oh, baby, spin me round. Just a little more time. Oh, baby, spin me round. Not begging you, please stop, but you take me home.